Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Marina Ray. I am a licensed architect, and I continue the video series where I discuss how to pass the architect registration examination. So this video is dedicated to our exam number 3, and that is Programming and Analysis, or PA. So let me share my screen with you and I will guide you through the exam requirements. And the reason why I am doing these videos is because when I passed all my exams, a lot of people started to ask me how I did that, what materials I used, what tips and tricks I can recommend. And in response to those questions, I'm recording the videos. So let's go. Let's see. So the division contains 75 questions, and that includes 2 case studies. So this is something consistent that you will see throughout all the 6 divisions. So there are always 2 case studies at the end, and they are between, I would say, 6 to 10 questions each. So, there are usually some supplementary materials as attachments, some excerpt from IBC or some information regarding ADA or zoning or drawings or something like that. So I have another video where I share like the general tips for all the exams, and I recommend watching that because I highlight how actually you should approach the case studies. And that's, I think that was like a really helpful advice that I got from someone when I was in my exam prep mode. So the test duration is 3 hours and the allowed break time is 30 minutes. Please take those breaks. That is necessary for your body. You need to have a snack, you need to have some water, you need to use the restroom. So please make sure that you use that time. But when you use the break time, your exam blocks all the questions that you opened. It doesn't matter if you answer them or not, you will not be able to get back to them. They will be locked. So please make sure before you leave the test room, make sure that you answer all the questions that you already accessed. So in total appointment time is 3 hours and 40 minutes. So please allocate that time when you go to your examination. So let's see what this division is about. And that is assessing objectives related to the evaluation of project requirements. So the constraints, opportunities, and whatever the project comes with. And this will also focus on issues related to programming, site analysis, zoning requirements, code requirements. And also, you need to be able to analyze the project type and then establish qualitative and quantitative project requirements, evaluation of project site and context, and assessment of economic issues before it's too late in the project, right? So there are 4 sections in this exam, and I will talk more about them in a minute. So section 1 is environmental and contextual conditions. Then section 2, codes and regulations. Section 3 is site analysis and programming. And section 4 is building analysis and programming. And you see that this is the largest section of this division. So before I dive deeper into each of the section, I always like to go back to the NCARB guidelines, and here is the link, and I will leave it in this video description so you can access that. So please always check that those guidelines because NCARB updates them quite regularly. So make sure that you have the most up-to-date version. So the primary recommended source is Problem Seeking and Architectural Programming Primer. It does not overlap with any divisions. And to be honest with you, I did not go through this book. But I actually loved this exam. That was the easiest exam for me. That was something that I truly enjoyed solving, and I mean, that was just me. And don't look at me as, something that you should be able to do. But this is something like this exam was like really easy for me. And I know that there are a lot of people who are struggling with this exam. So I struggled with other divisions, like with the technical divisions with PPD and PDD. So, and in your case, it may be something else. So also they recommend the Architect Studio Companion, rules of thumb for preliminary design. It says it's supplemental, but I would actually put it as the primary resource. That's important. That's critically important for this exam as well as the PPD. So, and it does not overlap with any other division, as you can see here. But I definitely recommend this book. This is a great book. You should keep it in your library even after you are done with all your exams. Another one is the AGS, or Architectural Graphic Standards. So I read this book cover to cover because this overlaps with the PPD and PDD as well. And this is a wonderful book with wonderful graphics. So, and some of the sections really are very close to what you may see in the exam. And again, we cannot discuss the exam questions, but like some of the sections or some of the like isometric drawings or just like some of the charts were really, really helpful for me because questions were based on those graphics. And also Site Planning and Design Handbook is a really good book. It intersects with the project planning and design, the PPD. And I actually have an overview of this book. So it's like a high level overview, and I will leave the link again for this book because I teach the undergraduate students, and that was one of my classes. So I recorded like the lectures for them just to highlight some of the important paragraphs in the chapters. So yes, definitely I recommend this book for sure, and Architectural Graphic Standards. All right, so let's start with the first section, that is environmental and contextual conditions. And that takes between 14 and 21% of exam items, which is between 10 to 13 questions. And you remember we have 75 questions in this exam, in this division. So that's roughly 10 to 13 questions. So, and here you'll evaluate the project site and identify both the opportunities and constraints that may impact future development. And there are three objectives here. So one is you'll evaluate site-specific environmental and socio-cultural opportunities. So again, programming and analysis division is basically your schematic design. You just sign the contract with your client. You start to sketch. You start to do your due diligence. You go to the HJ website. You see what the requirements are. You go to the site. You go see what is actually you are going to be dealing with. And that is critically important just to evaluate the site. And then also you'll see the environmental constraints, if any, and always check with the EPA, check with the zoning, check with the building department, check with whatever like department is involved, depending on the site for sure. Make sure that you're not violating anything, that you don't have to do the subdivision, that you don't have to make sure that your site is not located in the protected habitat, and that you don't have any like small birds or mouse or like some other protected animals living there, or if there are no wetlands or anything. So you definitely need to make sure that you know the site, and then you will start designing. That's the next division, project planning and design. This is where you actually start all your design. And also you'll determine optimal use of on-site resources by incorporating sustainability principles. So please make sure that you get the maximum from the site. If there is already an existing building, make sure that you know how to make it more sustainable, because apparently the greenest building is the one that is already there, right? So, and if there is no building, if it's like just a green field or like a site where the previous structure was demolished, then make sure that you orient the building the right way, that you'll maximize the heat gain, or you maximize the passive cooling, or whatever you are chasing, right, in your project. And make sure you know the climate, you know the climatic conditions, you know how severe and harsh the winters are, if there are winters, right? Or if it's a hot and humid climate, make sure that you know how to utilize shade and how to utilize the passive cooling and cross ventilation and so on. That's going to be down the road. That's in the next section of the exam. But here you need to evaluate what you can use. If there are already, if there's like mature landscape and if there are already big trees, make sure that you do not actually remove them from the site. That's the greatest thing that you can do, and utilize the existing conditions in for your benefit. So the second section is codes and regulations, and that's between 16 and 22%, or between 12 and 17 questions. So, and in this section, you look at the codes and regulations appropriate to the initial analysis and programming phase of a project. So 3 objectives here. You need to identify relevant code requirements for building and site types. That's what, so you need to get in touch with the building department, see what codes they use, so do the code research. Then you make sure that you know what actually you need to do, what you need to follow, and if there are any questions, you can schedule a call with them and you can always discuss that. But it's always good to be informed, and then you can continue your conversation with the client after call with the building department. Zoning, land use requirements. Make sure that you know that if, for example, the client wants to build a gas station in the residential zone, right, in the district that is zoned residential, make sure that that is allowed, right? Because like if the client wants that and he's willing to pay money, but the zoning department says, no, we cannot do that, then you cannot do that. So, and in some cases, yes, you can apply for variance, but it's not going to work in all cases, right? So make sure that you check that in advance, because that's the architect's role to know that and to inform the owner, because the owner does not know. They invested in some property, they're willing to invest in the design and construction, but they don't know all the regulations. So the architect should be the one who actually gets that information. Also, relevant local and site-specific requirements. So again, if there are any special considerations that you need to be aware of, make sure that you know them. If it's like close to the water body, like how close you can build, make sure that you know all the setbacks, make sure that you know all the height regulations. So make sure that you know everything before you start designing, because if you design like a skyscraper and there are only like 5 stories allowed, then you are in trouble. So make sure that you avoid those costly decisions and you do your homework before. So this is what this section is about, basically. Section number 3, site analysis and programming, and that's a larger division, not the largest, because the next one, which is building analysis and programming, is the largest, but site is very important too, and that's between 21 and 27%, or between 16 and 20 questions. So, and here you'll analyze a project site relative to the program and project requirements. And 3 objectives here. So you'll evaluate relevant qualitative and quantitative attributes of a site as they relate to a program. So what this means, let's see, qualitative is you see the site, you evaluate that, what that is, if it's urban or if it's rural. If this site is located on the intersection of busy roads, or if it's remote and there is no access to that site, and you need to actually figure out the infrastructure before you do anything else. Quantitative is like the square footage. You need to understand the neighborhood, the requirements, the height of the site, if there are, like whatever elevations there are, like how you can build, if there is like a sinkhole or whatever, like you need to really analyze the site and understand like what numbers you can put there, like the qualitative and quantitative. You need to synthesize site reports with other documentation and analysis. So what that means, do your soil report, send the structural engineer to the site just to evaluate, but that's actually, sorry, that's the building analysis. This is the site. So yes, soil report, geotech, topo, like whatever report you can get, and actually you can request that from the owner. So like geotechnical report or topography report or whatever, like you can get a hold of the from the owner. Please do that. Make sure that there is a land surveyor, you know, the property boundaries, you know, the like everything that is related to the site, vegetation, animals, whatever like is there. Make sure you really know the site, you are familiar with that. Also analyze graphical representations regarding site analysis and site programming, what this means. I'm sure you've seen the topographic maps with the like valleys and hills and like whatever lines are represented there, you know how to read them, because you need to know how the water flows, right? You need to know where to locate the site, especially the hill, right? So we remember that the buildings are, look, if we place them on the hill, you need to remember how they are placed. So if you imagine this is like the hill here, so hot arid will be located at the bottom of the hill, because the cools actually goes down and it stays there, and this is what we need for the hot arid climate. Then the opposite is hot humid. It will be on the top of the hill. So make sure that your your building in the hot and humid climate is located on the top of the hill. Then temperate will be like midway through the hill, and the cold climate will be like, you know, the second half of the hill, because you don't want the winds to actually penetrate the building, because winds are the strongest on top of the hill. So make sure that you kind of like brush all this information, you remember that, and you can easily locate the building on the hill if you need to. So that was site analysis. The next section is the largest. It's a giant section. Almost half of the exam is dedicated to this, and that's building analysis and programming. So it's between 37 and 43% of the exam items, and that's between 28 and 32 questions. And you remember we have 75 total, right? So, and here you'll analyze new or existing buildings relative to the program requirements, cost, and schedule. And here there are a few objectives. So the first one is you need to know how to evaluate relevant, again, qualitative and quantitative attributes, but here not the site, here is a new or existing building as they relate to the program. So make sure that you know what buildings surround your site. If it's the urban fabric and you're building in downtown, make sure that you know how many stories the buildings around the site have, like how the shade is actually gonna affect your site if you are building in the like hot arid climate and it's in downtown with the skyscrapers. That's perfect because it's going to be shared shade, right? And that's good for you. But if it's the cold climate, you don't want that shade. You want as much sun in winter as you can. So things like that you really need to look at. And the questions are kind of like just like the verbiage of the questions is like about this. So it kind of like tests your knowledge and the application of that knowledge towards the question. So the next subsection, or excuse me, objective is documentation, reports, assessments, and analysis to inform the building program. Again, here you get your structural engineer, you assess the existing structure and structural integrity of the house or the structure or whatever you have there. You need to make sure that it is structurally stable, that the roof is not going to collapse if you're, doing something there. Make sure that you get that report. You get the report, like you assess the environmental condition. If this building is old, you need to do the lead paint testing, asbestos testing, and whatever you need to do that. Check the mold, check if the wood has not been damaged by termites. So it's like things like that, like collect as many documentation and reports of the existing building as you can, and that will definitely help to inform your design and your building program. So the next objective is to identify and prioritize components of the building program. So again, you got all the documents, you know what's going on the site, what's going on with the building, and then you get the program from the client, ideally, right? Like the client gives us, but sometimes architects, have to come up with the program. And you need to see and prioritize the components, like what is feasible, what is not. And you need to communicate that back to the owner, because sometimes owners want everything, right? And like we can only do so much. So as architects, and you need to really be honest and communicate and do not promise what you cannot do. So that's the mistake, right? So also, you need to assess spatial and functional relationships for the building program. So analyze what space is already available, how you can convert it. If it's an adaptive reuse project, make sure that you utilize the existing materials as much as humanly possible, because that's the idea, right? Like you use the existing fabric and you transform it into something new. You repurpose the building and you make sure that you give it a second life or third or whatever, right? So yes, so look at the space, look at the function, look how you can maybe shift the spaces, how you can um, just use this space for something else, and communicate with the client, because they don't know what's going on with the design. They don't know what's going on in your head, how much you know and how much you don't know. So like that is the key to just, communicate. And that's for the project management division too, like usually communication is the problem, and that's how the contracts are breached, and like how misunderstanding is happening. So please make sure that you do not forget to connect with your owner. So also you need to recommend the preliminary project budget and schedule. We are not contractors, right? We're not construction managers. We don't know the exact schedule. And this is what they put together when the project goes out to bid, and then, they win the project and they submit the detailed schedule. But you need to know the kind of like ballpark, right? So, like, that, for example, if it's like a greenfield, if it's like a completely undisturbed site, you'll have to do all the earthwork. You'll have to do all the communications, all the piping, electricity, everything. So, and that is expensive, and that needs to be budgeted. That needs to be scheduled, and that's the part that you will that. You need to do that right from the very beginning. Otherwise, it will be very difficult and costly to change when the construction already starts. So you really, really need to know the phases of the project, what goes after what. And this is, what it is about. And if you are not sure, make sure that you have a friend who is a general contractor or who is an estimator, and try to talk to them and understand like how you can budget properly, how you can predict the schedule. You don't have to itemize it. You don't have to just do all the sequencing, because that's what the general contractor does. But you have to know at least the general, requirements, right? Also, the next objective is to identify alternatives for building and structural systems for given programmatic requirements, preliminary budget, and schedule. So here, what you need to do is, for example, if you want to do the building with the like if you want to do structural steel, right? But if there are any problems with that, if I don't know, like something happened, there is no supply chain, you cannot get a hold of that steel, what you can replace it with, what can be used, then you can use your heavy timber, you can use glue lam, and you can actually have your skeleton of the building built from that, not just the structural steel, for example, right? That's just the little example. And then what actually you can do if something goes wrong, if there is a delay, if there is a scope creep in the schedule, how you can actually deal with that, like what you can do to predict that. And again, this is just the very beginning. So this is not the heavy lifting. This is just the programmatic requirement. So you anticipate, you predict, and you make sure that you, again, communicate that with the owner. Also, you need to analyze graphical representations regarding building analysis and building programming. So what that is. So when you do the building programming, you need to, again, communicate with the owner graphically. So you explain what you are actually going to do. This is what you will implement, and this is how it's potentially going to look like. And when you do the building analysis, again, make sure that you show that report to the owner, that you discuss that. And maybe, maybe he has some advisor, maybe you guys sit down together and see what can be done, but you are basically the um, initial decision maker. You will make sure that that is incorporated into the design, that is compliant with the health, safety, and welfare requirements, that the general public is protected, so it's safe and it is according to your design, according to your construction documents, and that does not violate the code. So that is what basically this division is about. It's a lot, but the next two divisions will be even more complex. So get ready. We'll discuss them too. And before we adjourn, I want to show you the passing scores here. This is the screenshot of mine, and here you can see that it's slightly higher than in the previous division, right? The project management had, I think, between 59% and 71%. Here you have between 65 and 71. And so here you can see the breakdown per section, and you can see the passing candidates percent correct. So here you can even see 73. So, but you know how it's calculated. So each division is not equal. So by the number of questions, and then they just tally them up and come up with a number. So just again, it's not 100%. You don't have to know everything 100%. And there are pilot questions in each division. So but you don't know which ones, right? And be ready to answer all of them. You need to really complete all the questions, answer all of them. Whether you're not sure, like if you're running out of time, just click what you really think can be true. And you may actually be right. You know, I don't recommend doing that. Please always check your time. There's, you know, the countdown in the top right corner when you take the exam, and always look there. So don't spend more than so here if it's like 3 hours and there are 75 questions, so let me see, if we divide 180 minutes by 75, so it's 2.4 minutes per question, not more. So make sure that you do not spend more than 2 minutes on each question. And this is how you kind of like, you know, structure your answers. On some questions, you will spend like 30 seconds because you'll know right away like what that is. You know, the answer will just, you know, reveal itself right there, and you don't have to think. But some of the questions you will have to do the calculations, and you need to allocate some more time for those and some more, you know, brain capacity for those. So, and also there will be some questions where you will have to cross-reference the materials provided, and that is the case studies. I'm talking about that. So make sure that you know how to deal with that. And again, I have the video where I discuss just the exam strategies in general, not per division, but in general. And also, if you have any questions, you can always message me or leave a comment under this video. And also, please subscribe, support my channel, hit like, and share that with your friends or with your fellow architectural licensure candidates. I definitely appreciate that. And I will leave a link to my other two videos where I share 10 paid resources that really helped me in my exam prep, as well as the 25 free resources that I used, and they tremendously helped me. They are some of them are recommended by NCARB, like for example, the contracts, right? Or the model rule of conduct or the code of ethics by AIA. But some of them, like FEMA 454, right? The design for earthquakes, or some other supplementary materials, you know, there's like a list of different websites, different YouTube channels, different materials. And that I hope will help you as it helped me. And thank you so much for watching. I believe in you. You will pass all the exams very soon. Just keep studying. Do not give up. If you fail the exam, that's totally fine. It's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. You will get there. Thank you so much and good luck in your exam prep. Bye.